concept, the before work ramble. I just wanted to mention and give a little shout out to T-Star ASMR for encouraging me to film this one. So T-Star, thank you for the video idea. Go check her out if you haven't. Best Rambles on YouTube. But we were kind of talking about, I don't really remember what. I think she was mentioning movies or something like that. And I told her that we were planning on going to see Wuthering Heights. And so I just wanted to do a little bit of a ramble video on that, some of my thoughts, what I thought about the movie. So this video will have spoilers for the movie. So if you have not seen it and you are planning on going to see it, don't watch this video. But if you have no intention of seeing it, continue. But we had been talking about how my wife really wanted to see the movie. I guess it had been on her TikTok, and it's going viral. Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie starring in a movie together. People are eating that up. I guess I must have missed it on my TikTok or whatever, because I knew about it, but I didn't realize the hype was so large. So we went and saw it on Sunday, and this was the first time I'd been in a movie theater in probably about a year. We don't really watch movies that much, and when we do, we just watch them at home. And I just feel like there haven't been a whole lot of movies that have been worth going to see in theaters. You spend like $15-$20 on 2 tickets, and then we spent $35 on snacks. 35. It was insane. So we bought into the hype and went, and it was probably one of the most depressing movies I think I have ever seen in my life. I have never read the book, and so I did not. Well, first off, I didn't realize that the director was very liberal with the adaptation in the movie, and departed substantially from the book. So if you have read the book, apparently the movie is quite different. And the famous hanging scene that I'm sure everyone has been hearing about at the beginning was not that bad, but it definitely seemed to be in there for the shock value, because it really had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. I have to say the cinematography was phenomenal. If as you know, the character played by Margot Robbie, I can't remember her name. I don't remember. C something. It follows her and Heathcliff as children, and them growing up, and Heathcliff kind of protecting her from her dad, who was abusive. And early on in the movie, they find out that they're getting a neighbor, Lyndon, in his ward. And she immediately starts scheming on how she's going to get Lyndon to notice her. And it ends up with her peeking over his garden wall into a little lunch that he's having outside with his with Isabella, his ward. And the juxtaposition between Linden Hall and Wuthering Heights, their house, is crazy. Linden Hall is light and airy, and everything is white and taken care of and very beautiful and put together. And then you look at Wuthering Heights, and it's dark, falling apart. There's holes in the roof. They don't have food and, wood to make a fire. And so what ends up happening is she falls and sprains her ankle, and looking over the wall. And Isabella notices her peeking over the wall and screams, which causes her to fall. And, she's like, oh, it's a ghost. I just saw a ghost peeking over at me from the wall. And Linton's like, no, I'm gonna go check it out. And he finds her there. And so she stays with them at Linton Hall for like 6 weeks. Comes back. And Heathcliff is mad, big mad. He is like unhealthily possessive over her. And that is kind of like the beginning of the end of their like relationship. So they get into kind of like a spat that ends with her walking off. And later, Linton comes to Wuthering Heights to propose. And she says yes. And there's this whole conversation with like her and her housekeeper, who, again, I don't remember the housekeeper's name, where the whole conversation kind of gets misinterpreted, and Heathcliff hears this whole conversation and basically takes it to be like, she's not into me. And so he rides off into the night and disappears. And she marries Linton. And they seem to be happy for a little bit. They have a great life. It's like this montage of like years going by. And him, Isabella, and her housekeeper from Wuthering Heights, who moves down to Linton Hall with her, they all decided, they are gonna have a baby, and Heathcliff shows back up randomly. He's been gone for like 5 years at this point, and he's suddenly rich. And basically, at this point, the movie becomes a cheating montage of basically her and Heathcliff cheating, or her cheating on her husband with Heathcliff. And she keeps trying to break it off, and he keeps basically saying, no, like, we have to keep doing this. And he's really kind of pathetic in the movie, I have to say. And so it really just descends into like a cheating montage. And at some point, after she's tried to break it off like a second or third time, he finds out that she is having a son. And she hasn't told him this. And so he gets like super weird about that, and he's like, oh, well, like, more, well, first he's like, is it mine? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, how can you be sure? And she was like, I knew I was pregnant like before you even turned back up, so it's definitely Linton's, my husband's child. And after he finds that out, he's like creepily happy about that. He's like, oh, well, all the better for me. I guess you can, think about the implications of that. I'm trying to keep this G-rated, or PG, but, he likes that, so they keep cheating, and, eventually, Linton finds out from the housekeeper, and, in my mind, reasonably says, hey, I don't think Heathcliff should be coming around anymore. And so she really does not like this. And I guess it's after this that he finds out she's pregnant, after Linton says, hey, I don't think Heathcliff should be coming around anymore. There's like a scene where they're sitting inside, and Heathcliff throws a rock at their window and breaks it, and Linton's like, what was that? And she's like, oh, the sparrows this time of year, they get lost, let me go outside and check on it. And it's Heathcliff, obviously, and Linton, he knows this. So, he comes outside and it's dark, and he's like, dear, come back inside, our son's gonna catch a cold. And that's when, like, Heathcliff overhears and, finds out, and then is like, oh, is it mine, But, after Linton finds out that she's cheating, he's like, yeah, I don't think Heathcliff should come back here anymore. And this is when she starts, like, pining and basically, really going downhill and getting, like, progressively, like, sicker and sicker and sicker throughout the rest of the movie. And stuff. And her housekeeper, whose name I don't remember, is like her number one op, and it's like, you have to get up, like, because she's just rotting in bed, and, you know, take care of yourself. You know, you're gonna harm the baby. And there's this scene where she's like, oh, the baby is gone a few days ago. And the housekeeper's like, oh, well, I don't believe you, you know, if you haven't bled, the baby's not gone. And she was like, so, you know, get up and basically start feeling sorry for yourself. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. So, you know, she doesn't. And somewhere in this time, she breaks things off, I guess, with Heathcliff. And at this point, it's just in bed, pining, in bed, ill, you know, in bed, doing nothing. And at some point, housekeeper comes in to check on her. Notices the window open, notices like the curtains blowing, and goes to close the window, goes to check on her, notices that she has sepsis from the baby dying. And it's like, oh my gosh, go get the doctor, go get the doctor. The doctor comes in, can't do anything for her. She dies. And that's the end of the movie. She dies. That's like the last scene is like her in bed. And this is like kind of really gruesome, but like a absolutely massive like pool of blood like streaming off the bed and onto the floor, and like she's dead. And the last scene is like Heathcliff riding through the fog to Linton Hall on his horse, like to get there, and he's too late, and he like walks in the room, and she's like laying in bed, like she's all, you know, covered up, cleaned up and stuff, but like he you know, pulls back the cover and is like, get the doctor, you know, she can't be dead, blah blah blah. And it's like, nope, she's dead. And that's how the movie ends. Oh, I forgot to put in there that Heathcliff marries Isabella Linton's ward, and basically to spite her, Margot Robbie, whatever her name is in the actual Wuthering Heights universe, can't remember. I think it's like Cammy or Can't See something. Anyway, and the movie downplays this a lot, but like he abuses her heavily, like both kind of in the movie. It kind of hints at that, and really in the book is where it's really particularly bad. But, you know, basically, he's like, well, if I can't have Margot Robbie's character, you know, I'm going to marry you to torture her, essentially. And he's like, I will never love you. I am marrying you for like the sole purpose of, you know, spiting and torturing her emotionally. And it's just like, dude, you are a toxic individual. So, yeah, we walked out of that movie and we were like, what the heck is this? You know, complete garbage movie. Because, like, I, again, haven't read the book, so I didn't realize she dies at the end. And, you know, my wife is like, I feel sorry for Linton. You know, he is treating her really well. He loves her, takes care of her. And she, you know, cheats on him and stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know, at least if you're, you know, in love with somebody else, like, get a divorce. But don't cheat, you know, like, we were like, yeah, don't do that. And I don't know why we thought this, but we were thinking that, like, even though this movie was, like, so dark, that it was going to be a feel-good movie. And that just was not the case at all. And it really just left us feeling icky and, like, empty and depressed. And you really just get a sense of, like, how toxic this relationship with Heathcliff is. And we were just like, yeah, we're so happy that, like, we don't have that type of relationship. But yeah, it was just really, really sad and really emotionally empty movie. The character development wasn't that good at all. I mean, I don't know how much you can do, you know, with like a 2-hour movie. It was like 2-hour long movie. You know, though, but it's like Heathcliff disappears and comes back 5 years later and is like, now this monster, like, that is blowing up, you know, her marriage and everything. And, like, I get that she's not happy and stuff, but we were like, okay, this is gonna have a happy ending. Like, either, you know, her and Linton are gonna get divorced, or somehow Linton's gonna be out of the picture. You know, my wife was like, I think, you know, I was thinking he was gonna, like, die. Not that that's, like, a good thing, but we were like under the impression that somehow her and Heathcliff were gonna be able to get together. But no. And so, you know, that's pretty much it. You know, I personally am glad I saw it. Just because it's been so viral and hype and everything. But yeah, I would not see it again, and I really probably would not recommend going to see it. You know, if you're looking for any sort of substantive, you know, meaningful, feel-good movie, but I'm trying to think of anything else I could talk about, or anything else that I missed. I guess another way that the developers took creative liberties with the movie was in the reason why her and Heathcliff couldn't be together. In the book, it was like exploring like these themes of like race and like how, you know, people, because the book was written in like the 1800s, like how people of different races like were forbidden from falling in love and marrying and you know, building a life together. You know, these like exploiting these like backwards concepts of the 1800s. And the movie's like, oh, well, I can't be with you because you're married. And it's like condoning and glorifying cheating. And it's like, yeah, how about no? So, you know, in that regard, you know, not my favorite. But yeah, this was all over the place. I hope you were able to follow at least a little bit. I am going to go. I have to finish getting ready for work. But I hope you enjoyed.